Hello. Um, Apologies in advance. I'm like a little congested and stuff from recovering from being sick. So enjoy my voice today. I know we've talked about The Silent Stone before. We've got Power Struck. We've got All But Ordinary. We talked about those, and then my first book I ever wrote. I think today I'm gonna go a little out of order of things. Just a second, this will be. And I think I want to talk about, let's keep on the same vein as All But Ordinary. We're gonna start with I Hate Heroes because that's actually been released before. So I Hate Heroes started when I was watching My Hero Academia, actually. And I'm watching it and I'm like, I could do this better. There's so many things with it that I honestly feel like really could have been done better. And I just not too much. I should have started this after I got on the freeway. But whatever. But I started that one with that idea in mind, and I wanted a character who hated heroes but was going to take down the hero society from the inside. Major spoilers ahead for characters and stuff if you care about any of that, and want when I release the book and everything. Click off now, don't watch these videos because I'm going to take you through the story. So with I Hate Heroes, we begin with the origins of Aiko. She was the main character at first, where she essentially, for whatever reason, because the reasons have changed a lot, needed to get rid of Hero Society because it became more about pop culture and being famous, and instead of helping people and actually saving them. Kind of like how, if you haven't watched My Hero Academia, I recommend watching it. It is a really good watch, and it has a lot of things wrong with it, but so do most stories. And it is still fun. It's still fun, and it's still interesting, and it has a lot going on. But in that society, heroes have taken over, and they're all about the public eye. There's even an episode where they're learning how to do interviews, and I was like, okay, I see where we're going with this. And then I was like, but just the main character, I have such issues with a lot of the ideology here, and I kind of hated what they did with Bakugo, because honestly he was such a terrible bully that even with a redemption arc, it still is even with the redemption, shouldn't be friends with Midoriya. That is my hot take. I could do a whole video essay on this if you want. But anyway, I was like, okay, so in this story, I have this new character inserted that's going to be pointing out all the flaws in this ideology that Midoriya has. Then I was like, oh, I need a Midoriya character. I'm like, I need a hero type character. Well, his name is Hiro, spelled Hiro. Very, very classic, So we have Hiro. And he is the epitome of the standard trope ideology where I'm going to save everybody, and everybody deserves saving. And it's essentially, this is where it does take some hot takes, but I think it's important to put lessons into the stories and stuff that we consume. Even if you're not going to English class it and analyze something, there's still something about having messages in it that teaches people subconsciously. Even if you're not actively thinking, oh, what was the message here? What was this trying to portray? You don't have to think of it that way. And even when you're writing it, you don't have to think about it that way. You can literally just write via vibes, and people will figure out something that gives it meaning. So with I Hate Heroes, we have that ideology. And then I needed a Bakugo type character. That is Akiyama. But I wanted it to be bullying and mean in a way that didn't feel irredeemable and made more sense of why she was so angry. And I mean, granted, in real life there are people with anger issues and there's people that lash out that way, and that's just how they are. And obviously when we see Bakugo's mom, we're like, oh, okay, I kind of see where this comes from. But at the same time, a lot of the anger is unwarranted, and it just goes a little too far, where in reality I feel like that wouldn't happen. Even with Bakugo, like, yeah, he could be pissed off at Midoriya and stuff, and honestly it is possible that he would accidentally go too far, but I feel like he would have more inner turmoil with it, since they try to show that he is a good person at heart, but they don't show the inner turmoil until so much later that I'm like, I feel like they weren't setting it up at all for him to be this way, if that makes sense. So I want it to be more well established that she is this bully type character, but for this and this reason. I also, after working with these characters a bit, I decided to segue a bit from My Hero Academia aspect and start giving it its own flavor. So originally this was going to take place on Earth and stuff, but then I figured out how to tie it in to my sci-fi story that I was writing. And I was like, okay, this actually could be one of the trilogies. So now it's built in. And with that, I was like, okay, we actually need to go more in depth on a lot of these social issues. And because we're building a whole new world around it, there's even more to work with. So that was going to be the main trio. But then I decided I wanted a character for Aiko. He's Reiki. And not just to be like love interest, but to be have the same kind of ideology, but go about it a different way. So there's all of this stuff happening on Eris. Eris is the planet name that, like, basically Eris is the Earth of this universe. But he doesn't really care what's happening on Eris because he knows what's going on in the greater galaxy. But at this point in time with the Hero Society, Eris has kind of not been part of any galactic anything. They're still just warring within themselves, and they had just became the United World Alliance or United World Organization a long time ago already, so they've been established as like one unit, but there's still so many factions and it's such a big world that heroes taking over is a very interesting concept this way, to where it's almost like it's being used to cover up what the government is actually doing in the greater galaxy. So I wanted a character that understands that the hero stuff is like a lot of bullshit and kind of sucks, but at the same time realizes that there is more going on with the world, and it would be like, oh yeah, it's okay, like if this changes, but you know, I have more things to deal with. So he's actually first appears in the prequel to I Hate Heroes, which is technically that's the Zakaran Civil War. So he appears there, but we have him, and he's also, Aiko's a very gloomy, very cynical character, while Reiki is a very sunshiny, everything's great even if it sucks character. Hero's kind of like that, but at the same time his arc, because he was originally a side character but now he is the main character, because it's easier to see that change in thinking by making Hero the main character, and Aiko can teach him. So Hero starts off with this hero ideology, following the heroes, thinking that they're amazing, until he sees what's happening behind the scenes. So if you remember in All But Ordinary, if you haven't watched that video yet, I recommend it, but they're all underground in All But Ordinary. That still happens in the new version of it. It's just a little bit different. By the time I Hate Heroes happens, we're back on the surface, but the underground facilities were still made. So now it's just kind of like a cheap place that people live. So you can kind of see it as like the slums, but at the same time, it's kind of thought of as abandoned because the heroes don't go down there. So there's a lot. That's kind of where all the crime is, basically. So, or like where a lot of terrible things happen. So when the hero finds out about this through Aiko, he's like, "What? What's wrong with the hero? Why aren't they doing anything about this?" And that sets us up for the rest of the story. I'm not going to go through the whole story in this video, but setting up the characters. A second. Okay. Setting up the characters will help frame everything. There's some characters I'm going to overlook right now because, Rebus, who someone Reiki is being a bodyguard for, which brings him to Eris because he's kind of out in the galaxy. Before that, but there's like all these little characters interspersed in there, just like My Hero Academia, where you end up learning a lot from all these little side characters that make appearances. So we're gonna go through a lot of different things. There's even heroes that we follow that are following kind of a similar format. So we have Elvin. He's kind of a whatever hero. He's like, I'm gonna get my paycheck. I kind of don't care about this save the world thing anymore because crime just keeps happening. It's like all we do is really smile for the camera. And he's got his own tragic backstory and stuff, so he's also a little bit of a drunk. And then when his best friend, when she gets injured, he's finally like, oh, this is crazy. So we're kind of going to be touching on the concept of the heroes who only get involved when someone they know is involved, and kind of showing how it's kind of messed up that a lot of heroes, especially like in shows and in movies that are made today, that they're not really selfless because they're only saving the people that they care about instead of actually trying to save innocents. Like yes, there is Superman that came out this year. That one does it really well. He very much is selfless. He will risk everything to save any random citizen. And it's not about saving a random person over someone you know. Like if someone you know and some random person are both getting, you can only save one of them at that same time. Yeah, I do understand saving the person you know, but again, there's a lot of situations where they don't take the threat seriously until someone they know gets hurt. But all these other people were already hurt, and the CW show Arrow, Flash, Supergirl kind of shows this really well. Like with Arrow, he started off with killing his enemies. Which, yeah, sometimes that's a little intense, but these people were like murderers and killing so many that when he stopped doing that, so many innocents were tortured and killed. And like with the Damien Dark stuff, this show's been out for a while. I can't even recommend watching it. It drops off in like season 4 or season 3. But during the Damien Dark stuff, he doesn't take him so seriously until Felicity gets injured. But so many people were already killed that it's kind of upsetting to me that he doesn't take it seriously until after that. And I'm like, if you had taken it seriously from the beginning, all of these people would have been saved. Felicity wouldn't have been injured. You know he's a terrible guy. He's a mass murderer. Like, you've got to take this more seriously. And they were just kind of wishy-washy, trying to find him. Like, dude, if your whole thing is being a hero and your whole thing is tracking these people down, what are you doing? So, yeah, and I do understand the other side of it. There are some villains and things that do deserve redemption, or their reasoning for whatever they're doing makes sense. So there's also villain characters in this story that we'll be following a bit, where one, she does all these terrible things, but it's to protect all these children. And she essentially is starting an underground orphanage from all these kids that have been swept up in all this terrible stuff. But they're technically villains because they will do anything in order to protect them. And then there's villains who are literally just villains because money reasons, and maybe they're not the people actually in charge. But yeah, all that kind of stuff. The idea is to fully, totally explore the concept of what it means to be a hero, which is what My Hero Academia is exploring. I just feel like they're not really exploring that, and it became more about spectacle and more about the fandom shipping and characters and like fan service. And I'm like, you could be doing so much more. Like the first season starts touching on all these little things, and I was like, this is actually very interesting. And I actually did like the episode with Bakugo versus Ochako, where they were fighting each other, because it showed actually some really strong, like a female role up against still a very, very dominant male role who, yes, he does technically win, but she puts up such a strong fight. And they also show a bit more about Bakugo's character that makes him slightly more endearing and less annoying and awful. And I know a lot of that intenseness is played up because it is an anime and they needed to make it dramatic, but it just, there's a balance between fan servicey, preachy, and fun, and yeah, like, there's a balance. And I'm talking all this up, and I'm still not the best writer, so I'm still working on it. This story has gone through a few iterations. Even one of them, if you happen to have read one of them, it would have been on Webtoons, where I started making it into a comic. But I didn't like the way it was coming across, and it felt really rushed because I was trying to do it for a contest. But the newer version, I'm handwriting it, so it'll be a bit, but it's already so much better. And hopefully talking all this stuff through will help it be written faster. And again, just like the other videos that I was saying, like, if you want this to be written faster, help me by commenting, liking, subscribing, and getting to that point where I can spend more time writing and getting content out there. Yeah, that is the beginning and origins of I Hate Heroes and a little bit of my rant. I will probably be doing that for all the stories first before I go into any kind of detail on these stories. So look forward to that. I'm about to arrive back at home and rest my voice for a little bit. But if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye.